Today we are going to discuss in detail about the weathering of the rock and then physical property of the materials. So first we have to know about the what is meant by engineering geology. So it is a science which will be deal with the earth in detail. So as a civil engineer, we have to aware of how the earth will be behave if we construct any structures on the above ground. Okay, so for that we should acquire the knowledge of engineering geology. As a civil engineer, we are constructing so many structures above or below the earth. Okay, so all the loads which will be carried by the structures are transferred into the our earth surface. So, in order to extract the load, the earth should behave properly. So, what is meant by earth? The as a civil engineering point of view, earth is the made up of soil or rock. Okay, so if we possess the knowledge of science into the earth materials, that is known as the engineering geology. So by studying the earth surface detailedly, we can aim to construct these structures in a stable, economical manner. So next, with this introduction, we are going to discuss in detail about the another two topics, that is the weathering of the rock and then physical properties of the materials.
Happy day to all. In this video, we are going to discuss in detail about the weathering of rock. Before entering into the discussion of weathering of rock, first we will discuss about what is meant by rock. As we all know, our earth surface, which will be made up of three components. One is air, second one is rock or stone, and third one is the water. So, the most of our earth surface which will be covered by the rock. So rock is nothing but the rocks are natural mass of mineral matters that make up the earth crust. The rock which will be have different colors, textures, size, properties, etc. The rock are divided into three types based upon its formation. So the different types of rock are igneous rock, sedimentary rock and metamorphic rock. So as we all know, the rock is nothing but the mineral of compositions. If the rock will undergoes any stresses, temperature changes or frost action, the rock will be disintegrated into smaller pieces. That particular process is known as the weathering. So the process of in situ mechanical disintegration or chemical decomposition of rock of the earth by certain physical and chemical agencies of the atmosphere is known as weathering. The weathering is divided into three types: physical weathering, chemical weathering and biological weathering. The physical weathering is also known as the mechanical weathering. So the mechanical weathering, it is the natural process of disintegration of rock into smaller fragments, and after the weathering also there will be no changes in the chemical composition. Only the shape of the particular rock get altered by disintegrating into smaller pieces. Those kind of weatherings are known as the physical weathering or mechanical weathering. Only the changes in the shape of the rock will take place. So the physical weathering are occurred mainly due to the two actions, that is the external actions. Those actions are frost action and thermal effect. So mainly the physical or mechanical weathering is occurred due to the difference in the temperature. If there will be a huge amount of temperature will be act on a rock, means the rock will disintegrate it into pieces. Those weathering is also known as the physical weathering. If the rock are exposed to very lesser amount of temperature, that is the temperature minus 0 degree Celsius, for that cases also the rock will be divided into smaller pieces. That is also will come under the physical or mechanical weathering. So the physical or mechanical weathering are due to the two actions, frost action and the thermal. So what is meant by frost actions? For example, if there will be a rock with presence of cracks, those cracks will be filled by the water. If the particular rock will undergo minus 0 degree Celsius, means what will happen is the water present on those cracks will converted into the ice crystal. The formation of the ice crystal, which will induce the pressure surrounding the ice crystal. Those pressure will transfer into the periphery of the rocks, and due to the confining pressure keep on acting on those rock, the rock will be split up into the two pieces. So those actions are known as the frost action. After the frost action, there will be two types of products will form on the rock. One product is the thallus, another one is the scree. As we all know, in physical weathering, the rock will be disintegrated into smaller pieces. So, the smaller particles which is formed due to the frost action will be present on the slope of the weathered rock, means those products are known as the thallus slope. If after the weathering process due to the frost action, if the smaller particles will roll on the slope and settled near the bottom of the rock, means those particles are known as the scree. The frost actions is all another type of formation produced is exudations. So, due to the frost action near the seashore, if the particular rock will undergoes the frost action along with the chemicals present on a seawater, means it will undergoes the exudations process. So exudation is nothing but it is a process similar to frost action, but in the case of disintegration take place due to the formation of crystal of salt like sodium chloride etc. within the cavities. These exudations always occurred in the rock which is near to the another main causes of the physical weathering next to the frost action is thermal actions. If your rock will undergo the very high amount of temperature, that is excess under more than 100 degrees Celsius of temperature, due to the high amount of temperature exposed also, the rock will be divided into smaller pieces. So those types of weathering are known as the physical weathering. So after the physical weathering, you will get the rock in the two form. One is the insolation, another one is the exfoliations. So exfoliation is nothing but due to the very high amount of temperature acting on the rock, which will result in the peeling of the curved shells present in your rock. So the outermost layer of the rock get peeled off. Those processes are known as the exfoliations. This is due to the thermal actions. Another one is the insolation. If one rock is exposed to alternate temperature changes, means it will changes its original state to the broken stones. This is known as the insolation. The second type of rock is the weathering is the chemical weathering. So it is a process of alteration of a rock of the crust of the earth by chemical decomposition brought by the atmospheric gases and moisures. The chemical changes in the nature of the rocks takes place in the presence of moisures containing many active gases from the atmosphere, such as carbon dioxide, nitrogen, hydrogen, and oxygen. Few examples of chemical reaction which will induce the chemical weathering are solution, hydration, hydrolysis, oxidation, reductions, formation of colloids, carbonation, etc. As we all know, the rock which will be made up of different types of minerals and chemicals. If those minerals or chemicals which will react with the water or moisture or any chemicals present on a earth surface means what will happen is it will change its original form to the another form. So the new formation which causes the rock disintegrated into the smaller pieces. For example, if there will be a rock with calcium sulfate chemical, once it will react with the water, it will transfer it anhydride proper to the gypsums. So in anhydride nature, the rock will be in a solid state. Once it will changes into the gypsums, it loses its intact property and we can easily break the rock into the smaller pieces. So due to the chemical reactions between the rock and any other external agency which make the rock to loses its property and made to break it easily. So those weathering are known as the chemical. And there will be another chemical formation is the colloidal formation, which is the main causes of the formation of the clay mineral. So the formation of clay mineral also will come under the chemical. Next, another interesting weathering type is the spheroidal weathering, which will be formed due to the action of both physical and chemical weathering. So, spheroidal weathering is nothing but it is a complex type of weathering observed in the jointed rocks and is characterized with the breaking of original rock into spheroidal block. Both chemical and physical process are believed operated in spheroidal weathering. The last type of weathering is the biological weathering. So, always the hydrogen ions are known to be released at the root of plants due to its growth and metabolism. These ions are replaced by sodium, calcium, magnesium ions from the minerals and rocks surrounding the root system and use the nutrition of the plant. So, what will happen is due to the exchange of the chemicals or minerals from the rock to the growth of the plant, which loses the property of minerals present in the rock. So for the growth of the plant, the rock will supply the minerals to the plants and loses its own strength. So due to the process, the rock will loses its property and causes the disintegration. So those types of weatherings are known as the biological weathering. So after the disintegration of the rock into smaller pieces due to the physical or chemical or biological weathering, the product which we are getting are soil. So the various factors which will influence the weathering are nature of rock, climate and physical weathering. So as a civil engineer, if you are constructing the any structures, it may be a residential building or it may be any massive structure like dam, bridges, etc. Always you have to look for the nature of the rock, that is whether the rock will be intact or weathered rock. If you are constructing the any structure on the weathered rock, which will be lead to the unstable structures. So always we have to look for the if there will be a presence of weathering in the rock. If there will be a presence of weathering means which type of weathering it is, whether it is a physical, chemical or biological. We have to discuss and study the case in detail before going for the construction. So after the any types of rock, the rock are disintegrated into small pieces. So if the smaller pieces are present above the parent rock itself, those types of weathered products are known as alluvium or regolith. So if after the disintegration of rock into smaller pieces, if those smaller pieces are present outside the parent rock, those products are known as the alluvium. So the product is nothing but our soil. So due to the continuous weathering process, the rock will be disintegrated into smaller pieces. Those smaller pieces will travel from the one place to another place and it will form layer by layer and we will get the soil profile or soil pedogenous. A soil profile is nothing but the vertical cross section of the soil made up of layers running parallel to the surface. Soil profile is also known as the soil origin. Thank you. Happy learning. Happy day to all. In previous video, we have discussed about the weathering of the rock. In this video, we are going to discuss about the physical property of the minerals. So, before discussing the physical property of the mineral, first we have to know about what is meant by mineral and mineralogy. So, mineral is nothing but an inorganic element or compound in its natural states. It is a composition should represent a defined chemical formula. It will have the certain internal structure as well as the physical properties. Mineralogy is nothing but the study of mineral in detail. It is one of the sub-branches available in geology. In mineralogy, deals with various aspects related to minerals such as their individual property, their mode of formation and occurrence. Now we will discuss about the physical properties of minerals. The physical properties of the minerals is nothing but how the minerals will look like. Apart from the chemical composition and some other properties, while looking at the mineral, how it will look by through our naked eyes or by using the microscope. Those properties are come under the physical properties. So the physical properties of the minerals will change from the one mineral group to the another mineral group. So this is one of the main properties which is used to distinguish the minerals of various type from one to another. The physical properties of the mineral mainly depends upon the several factors like degree of aggregations a whole form, degree of cohesions, and sense light, magnetism, heat, and electricity. Look at the slide. The three pictures denote the minerals, but the appearance of each minerals will differ from one to another. So, in order to identify the minerals, the physical properties plays a main role. So, what are all the different types of physical properties are available? How we can able to distinguish the minerals means there will be n numbers of physical properties are available. Those are external appearance and internal structure, cleavage, fracture, hardness, specific gravity, tenacity, color, strength, luster, transparency, fluorescence, and other miscellaneous property. So by these physical properties, we can able to identify the mineral which will come under the which family. If you are taking the mineral means there will be n number of families are available like quartz, feldspar, amorphous, clay, etc. So in order to identify the correct family, the physical property plays a main role. The first property is external appearance and internal structures. Most minerals possess certain defined geometrical shapes bounded by the smooth planes in the form of well-defined solid called crystals. Three-dimensional arrangements called the internal structure of minerals. Internal structure which will control the external shape of your crystal. The second property is the cleavage. Cleavage is nothing but how your material have the tendency to break more readily in a certain directions other than the appearance of the surface. For example, if you are taking the quartz mineral means it is very difficult to break, but if you are taking the mica calcite means you can break it easily by the certain directions. So cleavage is nothing but the how the material have a tendency to break more readily. So depends upon this kind of characteristics we can able to identify whether the mineral will come under the which group. The plane along which the crystals are break is known as the cleavage planes. So the cleavage can be classified into perfect, good, or indistinct. So the indistinct minerals will have the no cleavage plane. The perfect one will have the good cleavage plane. The examples are mica and calcite. So these are all the different examples of the cleavage. The third property is the fracture. The fracture is defined as the appearance of its broken surface when the material is hammered or broken. So after the application of the hammering action, if your material is break into the pieces means depends upon the appearance of the broken surface, we can able to characteristic the minerals family. Those properties are known as the fractures. So after the breaking, if the broken surface or look like a even means those minerals are flint and chert. Okay, so there will be 5 types of fractures: even fractures, uneven, conchoidal, hacky, earthy. The fourth property is the hardness. So it is defined as the resistance which the minerals offers to scratchings. So if you are taking one mineral and if you are scratching the surface of the mineral by the hand, by the nails or by the knife or any other instrument, how the minerals will resist your scratching. That will call it as the hardness. So the hard rubbing can be done by the nails, fingernails, copper coins, knife or steel. So the hardness of the minerals are classified depends upon the more scales of hardness. For example, diamond which will have the hardness number of 10, that is it will give the good resistance to the scratching. The more hardness number 1 denotes the very lesser quality of the mineral, and 10 will give the good quality of the minerals. So the mineral which will have the very less hardness number is talc, and good hardness is the diamond. The fifth property is the specific gravity is nothing but the ratio of weight of minerals to the weight of equal amount of water. Always the value of the specific gravity of mineral will lies between the 2 to 7. The sixth property is the tenacity. So tenacity is referred to the mineral resistance to breaking, bending or otherwise being deformed. So after the application of the loading, how your material will resist the loading, those are known as the tenacity. If your material is easily brittle means it will get deformed or scratched or broken means those material will have the brittle tenacity. So during the application of the loading, if before the deformation or instead of the deformation, if your material get flexible without breaking means those minerals are known as the mineral will have the flexible tenacity. The seventh property is the color. The color is not a very reliable source of identifying the mineral as it can be affected by the impurities present in the mineral samples. So, by the appearance of the color or by looking at the color of the minerals, we are not able to identify the family of the minerals because due to the presence of impurities, the color of the mineral get changes. So the color is not a correct property in order to define the mineral group. So the main property which we can use to identify the group by means of color is a streak. So the streak of the mineral is nothing but the color of its powder. So by the color of the powder of the mineral only we can able to identify the true mineral group. It can be streak, it indicate the true color of the mineral, not a color of the minerals. So you are not supposed to identify the group of the mineral by the appearance, that is color appearance. If you want to identify the mineral group by the color means you are supposed to take the mineral and you have to powder it. So by means of powdered color of the mineral only you are supposed to give the correct mineral group. So the powder can be obtained by rubbing the mineral against an unglazed porcelain plate. Okay, so look at the slide. There will be a mineral called pyrite. By looking at the color of the mineral, it will give the different color, that is a brass yellow. Once if you are scratching the minerals against the unglazed porcelain plate, it will give the black color. So the true color of pyrite is black, not a brass yellow. The ninth property is the luster. It is the shining of the materials. How it get reflected by the application of the light on the surface of minerals. So the luster of the mineral will change vary from waxy, pearly, metallic, dull, silky, etc. The properties which we have discussed earlier are the certain important physical properties. These are all the some additional properties of the material: transparency, fluorescence, and phosphorescence. So, if you want to identify the mineral group, whether it is a quartz, whether it is a feldspar, whether it is amorphous or clay materials, means first we have to aware of the physical properties of the mineral. So, by defining the physical property of the mineral only, you can able to identify the mineral belongs to the which group or family. This video will helpful in that. Thank you. Happy learning.